review and news podcast.
Here in London.
Ding dong.
I was thinking about this last night in bed.
In this week's episode,
we are talking about Sharp's Brewery and specifically their Doombar.
But first, the hot topic. Don't know about you guys, but I can't wait for the hot topic.
Hello everyone, and we have a special reintroduction of the Puzzler coming back in. Puzzler, how's your gym sessions been going?
You can't tell from the camera that you're seeing me in, but I'm pretty stacked and pretty hench right now. I'm lifting at least, kitchen tables.
Well, you have shaved off all your hair, so you're going down the Jason Statham.
Yeah, I'm definitely Jason, not so Statham at the moment. I'm trying to get to the epicness that is Jason Statham. I watched the film The Meg, and this is where it all started from, to be honest. He's like, I found out he was 50 in that film, and he is absolutely ripped to hell in that film. It's quite scary. So if he can do it, I can do it.
You do look slightly more aerodynamic as well. Is that can you run quicker?
Yeah, very, very aerodynamic. It'll help with the beer reviews, I think. Each time you put it up to your lips, with the beer, you'll be doing a bicep curl, basically.
I've figured out that I'm actually quicker at drinking alcohol now because I'm lighter. So and the hair doesn't get in the way, so I can see everything. It's amazing. It's life-changing.
Because you had such long, luscious locks beforehand, it was getting in the way of your drinking.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like the floppiness. Yeah.
You had like a horse's mane.
Actually, my flop. That's a weird thing to say on my flop went down past my up to my mouth. So there you go.
And by flop, you mean your fringe, right?
Are we talking like the old school emo fringe that many people in our high school used to have covering their one eye?
Yeah, it's
like this
and dyed green. Yeah,
and dyed green. Yeah.
Well, what was your favourite band at the time? It was pretty emo, wasn't it? You like?
Oh, Billy Talent.
Yeah, you like Billy Talent.
Yeah.
That's pretty emo.
Yeah, I like Billy Talent. Yeah. They were alright, they were.
Didn't you once express yourself to a girl through sending her a Billy Talent song and said you should listen to this one, and it was all about I don't know. It was quite underlying, wasn't it?
Basically, I thought it was a good song, and then in hindsight, not so good.
She definitely read into that song, that's for sure.
It was like I think the whole thing was I really liked the song. And then, do you know when you it's upbeat song, really fast song, and you're like, oh, this is really good. And you go, and then you read the lyrics because in the days when they had the CD cases, you could read the lyrics. Yeah, it's pretty depressive stuff. Pretty angry.
I mean, that was your teenage angst trying to come out and tell her how it felt, but you couldn't express it yourself. You had to do it through that song. So, I think you were reaching out there, Sim.
Yeah, poetry would have been a better choice.
And this was only last week to Jack, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was just after the Fosters episode. Right, let's get into it. Come on, talking beer. Let's go. This week's episode, we're going to be talking about Sharp's Brewery and their number one selling beer, which is Doombar. And we'll also be talking about what the difference between proof in America and the rest of the world. For the hot topic today, we've had a listener question or kind of clarification come in for the hot topic today. This is from Liz HD. She's coming right from the US of A, from New York. And she says, "Hello, lads. I'm a few weeks behind on your podcast. Great stuff overall, by the way. Thank you, Liz. Keep those compliments coming. We'll make sure we read out them every week. And just listen to the Heineken episode where you discuss what ABV means. Joe mentioned, that's me, the term proof and declared that ABV is the same number as proof. So that, as I said, they match off against each other, 45% ABV, 45% proof, which for her gave her pause because in the States, proof is actually double ABV. So she's sent in a picture of a Maker's Mark bourbon bottle, and it says 45% proof, 45% ABV and 90% proof. So that gave her a bit of a scratch of her head. She then carries on. She says, I looked into this and discovered that the French have their own alcohol measuring system, the Gay-Lussac scale.
Beautiful.
Well done.
That also uses the term proof, but equates it with the ABV number. So she's assuming that English, that's what we refer to as proof. That's why it matches off. And you're absolutely right, Liz. That's where we get it from.
What Liz found some information, and the information says measuring alcohol strength using the proof system can be traced back to the 16th century England, where liquor was taxed at different rates depending on the amount of alcohol it contained. In order for the government to discern the liquor should be taxed at a higher rate, an assessment known as the gunpowder test was performed. This test consisted of soaking a pellet of gunpowder in the liquor and then trying to light it up. If the pellet burned, the liquor was therefore strong enough to meet the higher tax threshold and was thus classified as a proof spirit.
So proof was almost like the certification that it was what it said it was. And that's why it got taxed. Very interesting.
And the fact that if it was strong enough to be able to light up gunpowder, then it should be taxed higher. I absolutely love that.
I really, really enjoy that. That's probably the best way to test alcohol. We should bring that back in, just in more day-to-day life. Instead of only lighting the Christmas pudding with alcohol, just everything. I'd quite like a fish finger sandwich. Just light it on fire with some brandy.
Well, I mean, to be fair, most fish finger sandwiches are beer battered. So you've got some level of alcohol in it. But I'm not sure if you try to light your fish finger sandwich on fire that it would be proof enough to light on fire, ignite. You might just have a very burnt, and maybe your fire alarm would go off and the fire brigade would come and say, what have you been trying to do? I've been trying to light my fish finger sandwich on fire.
Just proof it.
Also, Jobber, how much gunpowder do you have lying around?
Well, you know me, I've got stuff like that. I've got really odd, peculiar things just lying around, and gunpowder is one of them. I probably wouldn't
say gunpowder and having it lying around too often. GCHQ's probably listening, and they probably put you on some sort of list to come check you out now. So for anyone that isn't aware, GCHQ is our NSA. So they're the big brother. They listen in everywhere. Right. So thank you very much, Liz, for sending that in. We actually didn't know that there was a difference in proof and ABV in America. There's these two different versions going on. So thank you very much for raising that, and loving a bit of history thrown in there as well. We're all about the groundingness.
And now for some pursuit of hoppiness.
Right, chaps. Right. So this week we are talking about Sharps Brewery, and specifically their Doombar, which is the best product that I've ever had. It's probably the only product I've ever had from Sharps Brewery. But, so Simo, where's Sharps Brewery from again?
So it was founded in 1994 in St Minver Lowlands, Rock, Cornwall.
Oh, so we're going back down to Cornwall.
Yeah, I love it.
Nice.
And it's called Sharps Brewery, and it was founded by a man called Bill Sharp. So obviously nothing's too creative there.
It does exactly as it says on the tin, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, that is a solid name, Bill Sharp. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
You had to do something. You had to set something up and name it after yourself as Bill Sharp. I mean, he's made a brewery, but, he could have been a knife maker as well.
I think, do you know what, Joe? I think he's devastated over the fact that he's not a knife maker. I think
knife maker. He could have been a comedian.
Yes. But it started off as a microbrewery, and it's kind of built himself up. It's obviously very well known at the moment, and it's got a flagship beer, which, as Joe has said, is the Doombar. It's been independently owned until what time, Joe?
Well, so actually, Molson Coors bought them in 2011, February the 2nd, 2011, for £20 million.
20 million?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I think that's a bit of a bargain.
That's
20 million.
That's what I was thinking. Like, we've heard of these buyouts of other breweries for Doombar's a popular brand. We've heard of buyouts up in like masses more than 20 million. 20 million. It's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, not that a big amount of money.
I was driving around Hampton Court the other day, and there were definitely houses worth more than that around there.
Yeah. Why were you just driving around Hampton Court?
Why are you driving around Hampton Court?
Because it's like Regal, and there's not much you can do in lockdown at the moment, and so we've just taken to just putting the dog in the car, and we just drive to an open space, and Hampton Court happens to have lovely rural parks. So it's where there's like really nice royal stuff there.
God, you're middle class.
I mean, Rich, we're all middle class here.
Yeah.
With regards to 2011, though, they might not have been as big, because obviously Molson Coors would have kind of probably elevated it a bit further. However, I was looking at some stats from that kind of time. In 2010, their revenue was about 16 million.
Okay.
So to buy it for 20 million, does that make kind of more sense, maybe?
No, not really. Well, yes, but you're also the valuation of a company is based on their projected revenues. So if they're already making 16 million, you just said there. So if they're already making 16 million in revenues when they got the year before they got purchased, then, that you expect that they're going to keep doing that, if not grow on that every single year. So to only value the properties and the brand at 4 million, let's say, that's the difference between that 16 million and the what they was purchased for. I feel that's really undervaluing the brand. That's maybe even undervaluing the assets that they had, that they were, being valued at. So
maybe he really wanted to start his knife business, like you said, and 20 million was the startup capital he needed.
I think that's exactly it.
Okay, so as we said earlier at the start of the podcast, we're drinking Doombar, which, Joe, you seem to be raving about, which I quite like. But what I quite like is what Doombar actually is. Do any of you guys know what Doombar is?
I've never heard. I know the word Doombar for the beer, but I've never heard of it outside of the beer context.
Okay, so Doombar is a sandbar that is in an estuary. It's an estuary down in Cornwall. So that's the actual name of the bit of sand that is sticking out. They call it the Doombar, and the reason they call it the Doombar is because there's been so many marooned ships on there over the years. And so ships are going along nice and happily, and these big sandbars normally sit just below the water, and so they're going along and they just get wedged on top of it, and they're not going to be having a good time.
So as a driver of the big boats, or of boats, what do you call them? Are they pilots? Are they drivers? What would you call yourself, Rich?
Captain, pilot, bloke who drives a boat.
You're not a captain.
I'm more captain than any of you two.
Captain. It's Captain
hands
Jumbo.
up, hands up, whose job involves boats.
I'll have you know I have my PB2.
Yeah, and I've seen you crash a powerboat up a beach. This is...
That's very true, all factual. Right, so, alright, so Captain Travers, so these are sandbars. They are under the water, so you can't see them.
Oh yeah, so they vary. Some you can see, some are slightly just under the water, and lots of people can be caught out by them, and so they get caught on them, wedged and stuff like that. But this particular one is down in Cornwall, big old one, just down in the estuary. And so in Cornish folklore, apparently a mermaid created the bar as a dying curse as she left the harbour, as she was shot by a local man.
So this is really happy.
Yes.
That mermaid, that's a real, like, kind of old-fashioned middle finger to that man and the estuary, isn't it? It's just like, go away.
Yeah.
That kind of sours a Little Mermaid for me.
No, he's not saying it was Ariel. He's not saying it literally was the Little Mermaid who did this.
Hey. You never know. It might have been her.
Sebastian was an egging her on in the corner.
To be fair, Ariel was a very troublesome mermaid.
But
so
I also,
could have been. Hey, you don't know.
I also don't remember the bit in the Disney film where Ariel gets shot.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put it past an old-fashioned Disney film, given what happened to Bambi. R.I.P. Bambi's mother.
But once again, a brewery's gone down the line and named something after gone down folklore, and they found something quite, I suppose, mystical about it if you were to dig a little bit deeper. But also, Doombar is something quite dangerous, and the name itself does strike doom in the title.
It's very foreboding. Doombar is very foreboding.
And for a very foreboding beer, it's interesting that I think Doombar is 90% roughly of their sales.
Of Sharps Brewery's sales. It's 90%. Wow.
And in 2010, before they gave it over, they were making over 24 million pints of this stuff.
Wow.
Oof.
So, and it was the highest selling cask ale in the UK in 2019. So I think obviously this is very UK based, this company. I know that it can be found in places like Italy, Sweden, and Japan and things like that.
Well, I think it goes back to what is the actual product itself, and it's a traditional amber ale. You know, it is that kind of, it isn't fizzy, it isn't, all this kind of craft beer. It started out by a microbrewery, but 1994, and we've talked about other microbreweries that started about that time, like Shipyard in the States, as well. This is a traditional take on a beer, but a modern take. What's
your idea of the flavour as well? Because we've all been drinking it.
It's nice. I can see why it's so popular. It's never been something I've drunk regularly or anything like that, but I have had it on occasion. But I can see why it's popular. It's nice. It's refreshing. It drinks well. I'm not offended when I drink it. There's nothing horrific about it. It's just a very nice sipping, simple ale.
I go further than that in that I always make a beeline for a Doombar. If I see a Doombar on tap, if I see it at the bottles, I will make a beeline for it because I really, really enjoy a Doombar. It's got that, it's really Moorish. Like, they say this on the finishing notes, like Moorish subtle bitterness. It's very smooth. It feels welcoming. It feels homely. If that, because I've always sought out a Doombar, and especially when you get to London, like London had a real Doombar craze at one point where like everywhere had to stock Doombar because everyone in London was like, yes, I love this thing. This is amazing. It's from the UK. It tastes really good and it just went down well. For me, I've got a love affair with Doombar, mostly because of the taste and the flavour, but the fact that it's from Cornwall as well is always a big plus.
It's very easy. So like, I know that if I go to a pub and maybe there's a few choices, I know that I'll never be disappointed with a Doombar. It's dangerous in the terms of that you can finish it quickly. So the doom is that I'm going to get very tipsy very quickly if I keep drinking these because it goes down quick. It goes down easy. It's very nice. I don't want to say simple. That's not what I mean, but it's just an easy beer.
Well, that's it. And I think it's simple in the fact that it's homely, but it's actually complex in its flavour. It is got a lot of flavour to it. And, going back to what you're saying there about it's very Moorish, drink quite a lot of it, it's only 4.3%. So it definitely would be in a modern craft beer industry classed as a session ale.
Yeah, definitely. I'm about to crack open a non-alcoholic version of this beast. And I'm going to be very intrigued.
So we do have listeners at home. We have the original Doombar that we've obviously been talking about, as Rich dubbed them the other day, the full fats. And now we are, trying the Doombar Zero, which is their newest beer, which is, as you can imagine, a 0.0% version of ABV of their Doombar beer. So
now, why do they put 0.0% on it?
Because that's what it's got no alcohol in it.
But why don't they just put 0%? Rather than 0.0?
Because you can have beers that are non-alcoholic that are under 0.5% ABV.
So that still classes as non-alcoholic.
Yeah. Okay. Plus also as well, the decimal point system in beers is a well-known kind of to consumers that it's like 3.4, 6.5. People are quite used to that. So they're just playing into what people already know.
Okay, so as Simo's just said, we are now cracking open the Doombar Zero, so the non-alcoholic version of Doombar. So what I want you all to do is take a swig and tell me what you think. Have you got that? Take a swig, tell me what you think.
Well, before I take a swig, can I take a smell?
Oh, yeah.
Take a smell test first.
Have a snifter. Ram it up your nostrils.
Right. Okay, so I've got the original Doombar. Taking a sniff. Non-alc. Okay, there's something very vacuous about the non-alcoholic. It doesn't have the same smell as it does with Doombar original.
I think it smells like gone off alcohol.
Okay, so it's actually, okay. I agree with you. It's not that pleasant a smell.
No.
Taste-wise, let's have a go.
Oh, no.
What do you guys think?
I'll say this. If you take a small swig, it's worse. The bigger the swig, the less not so good it is.
Yeah, there's very little I can say that's positive about this, unfortunately. If I'm honest, I think they've made a blundering error here. I'm sorry to hear this, Sharps, but I think you've done your brand a disservice by calling this Zero version a Doombar. I think you needed to pull this away and you needed to make this a whole new offering that was something else, but definitely not Doombar, because I think you're hurting your Doombar brand by making a very subpar non-alcoholic product, but linked with the Doombar brand.
It just tastes chalky and a bit off, like chalky, charcoaly. It's just not great. It's not an amber ale.
It's definitely not an amber ale. And I would say non-alcoholic drinks can be ales. They can be, beers because they go through the same process. But this is, for me, it doesn't taste like an ale at all.
What I find really interesting is if you look at the back of both, the aroma, taste, finish, serve and food pairing is exactly the same on both bottles. Now, I'm going to put it this way. I do think that the first one is balanced succulent. And I do think the first one is Moorish.
As in the original?
I don't think the original. However, I don't think the Zero deserves what it's got on the back. They're basically saying that they're the same beer. I feel like by putting the same things on the back, you're saying it's the same.
They've been very lazy with this, with the brandy. They've made a drink, they need an non-alcoholic, and they've just gone, we need it to market as quickly as possible. If you look, listeners, side by side to Doombar and Doombar Zero, they look exactly the same, apart from the colours have changed around and there's 0.0 on the non-alc version. But because the product is so subpar in comparison to the original, it's damaging the fact that it's so closely linked that way. Can someone pour it out? Can someone pour it out into a glass?
Yeah. It looks the same colour.
As the original Doombar?
As the original Doombar, yeah.
Also, Joe, do you know you're talking about that smell you didn't like? I feel like that's what you taste when you drink it. I feel like you can always taste that.
Boys, I figured it out. Maybe someone in the brewery shot a mermaid. And that's why this was made.
This is the mermaid's revenge coming full circle. Don't forget about the sandbar. It's not about the sandbar. It's about they made sure that they made their 0.0% Doombar beer rubbish. The mermaid's Ariel's revenge. It finally comes to fruition. In 2020, she finally gets her revenge.
I want Disney to now make Ariel's Revenge the film.
The Doombar Zero story.
I would watch that. That sounds fantastic.
Okay, so big swing and a miss on the Zero, but let's not take away from Doombar itself. Let's try and, if we can, Doombar or Sharps, I would say try and pull those beers apart as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because Doombar Original is fantastic. And let's not beat around the bush. Sharps, you're a great brewery. Rock, we love you. Keep doing what you're doing in Cornwall, but please do something about your non-alcoholic. Sharps Brewery on Instagram have 10,000 followers.
Okay.
10k. And on Twitter, they have 13.8k followers, which is, you'd probably expect it for a brewery that's been around since 94, been a bit of a staple in the UK, with their beers very much led by Doombar, as we said before. I mean, Sharps and Doombar specifically, it's a conversation starter. I think most people would feel comfortable, having an opinion about Doombar, because most people will have tried it. Right, so drink Doombar Original, don't touch the non-alc.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe,
Rich,
and Simo,
goodbye. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now. Always drink responsibly, and if you or anyone else needs some help, go to drinkaware.co.uk for more information.